Hi, my name is Mariah and I am the owner of the Etsy shop Owl of It. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to prep your embroidery hoop and your needle and embroidery floss for embroidering. So if you've watched the other videos, I'm using this 3-inch bamboo hoop. Here's the fabric, trace my design onto it. So the screw's still loose from me taking this apart. So you're gonna lay the part without the screw down on your flat surface. You're gonna take your fabric, this is the back side of it. You're gonna set that on top of the part of the hoop that's on the flat surface. Center your design in your hoop. Then you're gonna take this top part and set it down on top of it. You might need to loosen your screw a little bit more now that the fabric is in between it. But then, you can kind of see it here. It's in between. Then you're going to start tightening your screw. Again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You might need to pull your fabric a little bit as you're tightening just to make sure it's taut. You want it to be really not moving, to be taut through your hoop. So tighten until you can't really tighten it anymore. Pull your fabric if you need to make sure it is taut. And then this is what it'll look like. So not really moving much, that's great because it won't be shifting around while you're embroidering. Okay, so for this hoop, I'm going to be embroidering the stem stitch with 3 strands of embroidery floss. So I have this embroidery floss. I like to use the DMC brand, but you can use any type of brand. You're going to want to use about 18 inches of floss. You want it long enough that you're not having to get a new piece super frequently, but if you cut it too long, then it'll knot up while you're embroidering, and that can be really annoying and really hard to untangle. So if you look at the end of your embroidery floss, you can kind of pull it apart, and each piece of embroidery floss is made up of 6 strands, so you can kind of see it's not super in focus. So sometimes you'll use the whole piece if you want it to be really bold, but other times you might want to split it. So I'm going to split it into 6 strands. So I like to kind of start at the end, but then it can be helpful. Like I'll put the other end of it between my knees. That way I can kind of pull, and then I'll pull it apart. Because it'll kind of like roll up on itself if you're not holding the other end tight with something else. So I'll use this one piece to start with, and then I'll use the other half when I run out of this strand. So you can kind of set that stuff off to the side. This is an embroidery needle. It can be helpful to make sure you have an embroidery needle instead of a hand sewing needle because the eye will be bigger. That is really hard to see. But the eye is bigger than a hand sewing needle because a hand sewing needle is designed to just use one piece of thread. But like you saw, you can be using up to the 6 pieces of the embroidery floss. So there's a little bit bigger of an eye, that way you can get more floss in it. I normally lick it to make sure that it goes in well. I can normally thread these really well. Okay. You can also get a needle threader. I normally don't have too many issues. So the one piece will be a little bit shorter. The longer piece, I'm gonna go ahead and knot because I'm using a stem stitch. So I can't really tuck the knot or the end of the thread in. So just do a simple knot. Great. And then if you want, you can use a needle minder to keep track of your needle while you are embroidering. This one that I have, the front is enamel, and then there's a magnet on this side and a magnet on this side. So then you can put the part with the enamel on the front and then the magnet on the back. And then when you're embroidering, if you're taking a break, you can put your needle on it and it'll stick to it, and then it'll keep your needle in place, and then you're not poking other holes in your fabric if that's something you're worried about, or if you're like cutting a new piece of floss, that'll help you keep track of it. All right, so in the next video I will show you how to do a stem stitch if that is something you're wanting to learn.